started on the topic, I think it's important to understand that what is it that any species or a complex species like human beings or mammals, what is it that a child of those species need to be raised or to develop? What are the skill sets, whether it is physical skill sets, whether it is social, whether it is emotional, and how does the development happen? So I think it's a good idea for us to go right from the basics so that we know, we can see the challenges from that perspective. So I'll change the screen. So if we look at right from the beginning, right from the infanthood to the pre-primary, primary, secondary, all the different developmental has many needs to get, right from physiological need, say ability to put himself or herself to sleep, learning to eat, aided, unaided, variety of things that the child needs to eat mindfully. Then comes the social and emotional cognitive part, a little complex, learning to speak, communicate, whether verbally, whether non-verbally, learning to socialize with their peers, with the people around, learning to slowly build a trust and connect with the adult world. And with all this learnings comes a lot of frustration because the child is not able to get it right the first time. There also comes a concept as being able to wait, because the child will not always take the right decisions. Child will fall down even when the child is learning to walk, something as basic as taking a walk, learning a bicycle riding. So there's a lot of wait, there's a lot of delayed gratifications which is expected for the child to build in, ability to see long term. If I'm doing something now, I may not be able to bear or get the fruit right then and there itself. So these are all part of early learning. These are all part of continuous learning for a child, and the underlying theme with which the child learns, because it is also important for us to understand that how does the child learn all these skills. Is it that the child is learning everything in silos, or is it that the child is learning all this thing in a particular environment where the child is growing up? Okay, so if you have to see how is it that the children learn, so there is something there are a couple of things here. One is observational, that is the child sees and try to understand, take small baby steps towards trying to mimic it. That's how the verbal development, like we have seen, the gurgling, the ma, da, ta, the singular words that the child starts speaking, then making connections with that, the speech development. So the child observes, tries to mimic, tries all the permutation and combination, sees what is it that the child gets it right, and further practices on it. So one is observation, the other is experiential. That is, the child does and learn. So if we see out here, child has to observe around, child has to make sense of the world in which the child is growing up. Then of course child needs an environment where people are ready to listen to the child, people are observing what is it that the child has to say. Then of course the child needs to do things in the tactile world, in the kinesthetic world, using all the senses that the child can use: touch, see, listen, taste, balance, movement, experiment. These are all the different ways. And what is the bottom line to all these things that the child has to learn? The bottom line for all this thing is the curiosity. When the child is observing things around and the child gets curious, what is it? So these are the different questions. That is, they question and then they wait, they figure it out. Even if it's something which is as basic as a rattle toy, child will try to figure it out, that where is the noise coming from? How is it when I'm doing a shaking sign, It's different when the toy falls down from my hand. The noise is different when I'm putting it against some other object, a wooden object, the metal object. In fact, one of the favorite activities for a 2 years and 3-year-old child is dropping, or a pre-primary child is dropping things down and figuring it out how the different things work out. For a schoolgoer, or a child maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 years old child, the favorite activities are all the motor skills, more and more complex motor skills. How do I paddle? How do I balance? How do I climb up on a slide? So they question, they observe, they take baby steps towards solving that problem. They fail, and then they again learn. They take a break, even be it social conflicts as well. The child tries to figure it out, that what is it? I want to do certain things. I want to be friend with this person. I want to be in good light with my teacher. I want to do well in this particular subject. How do I do it? So bottom line is, whatever learning that the child has to do, it starts from natural curiosity that the child is born with. And that's how the child develops their own worldly view. And that is the biggest reason why a search engine like Google is doing so well, because we're also curious and we keep asking questions. But is it about asking questions, or is it about ability to stay with the question, ability to take small steps towards getting that question, and sometimes not being able to get the answers of those questions? And that is where the Google search engine works different from how a child needs to develop with their own questions. Not everything, it is not about how much information that the child gets instantly. In fact, instant gratification works diametrically opposite to the delayed gratification which the child needs to do. Okay? So if we are saying that what are the different ways that the child needs to learn, the basic questions which comes is how, as a caregiver, as a parent who is raising these wonderful children, how do those people help the child, or how do they support the child? If we have to go by that, what are the different ways that they help or support the child? Right from the beginning, right? Whether it is eating, whether it is sleeping, whether it is brain development, learning through observing, interactivity, social, emotional, ability to take a no, a delayed gratification. I want this toy right now. I can't get it. How do I get it? Or even when the child is not getting the way the child needs to get, the social emotional, where the child is feeling very sad about things, co-regulation. So how is it that the parents can help? How the parents can help is by being interested in the child, by being engaged with the children. That is where the co comes. That is, whether the child is getting frustrated, is the parent there to listen to the child? If the child wants certain things, are the parents fearful of the reaction of the child, or the parents wants to give in as an instant gratification? When the child is having a major tantrum or is getting a meltdown, how is it that the parent can help the child? Right from eating, how the parent can help the child in making it a pleasurable, fun activity, whether it is reading with the child together, how the child builds a worldly view that the world is a safe place, the world is an interesting place, and I want to be part of this world. I want to contribute to this world. So these are the ways in which the parents can help the child. Now, if when we understand all these things, then the question comes that what is it that's happening in the last, say, post COVID, or maybe a few decades, a decade or two? What is it that's happening in our world? And is it happening in alignment with what is the developmental need of the child? Is it happening in the alignment of, are we, the caregiver and the society, are we truly enabling the environment of the child, right? So then the question comes that, what are the challenges? How did the lockdown, typical lockdown, look like in our households? So what is it that's happening here? If you look at the slide here, right, we have children, parents who are working parents, or parents who are, of course, there's a certain fatigue that comes in as well. When the parent is continuously sitting with the child, they are all in the same home. The children are having their online schooling going on. Parents have their own work related commitments. They also need to de-stress at their own level. So you see what's happening here. There's so much of isolation happening. There is so much of disengagement happening. And of course, the child is curious. Child wants to learn. So it is not that the child is completely getting disengaged. Child is getting engaged, but child is getting engaged to a world which is not the real world. Child is getting engaged to a world which is robbing away the opportunity of the child to develop basic physical skills, social skills, emotional skills, cognitive development, problem solving, failing, figuring it out, downtime, unstructured time. So that is the biggest challenge, if you ask me, which the next generation is facing in today's time. And this is the question that my endeavor out here in this webinar isn't really to give solutions, isn't really to come up with quick action items that let's do this, let's do this. It is more about asking questions. It is about sensitivity. It is about understanding, in seeing the bigger picture, that what is it, what environment are we giving to the children? Do we owe a better world to the children who are expected to grow up to be a responsible, productive members of the society, and not a disengaged, with a growing up with a skewed worldly views? So that's how, what is it that it leads to, right? When it is increased screen time, when it is social isolation within the family, when it is parental fatigue which is coming up. And we also have to understand that the family structure is also changing in today's time. The family sizes, the families are growing up to be smaller. Our There's a big concretization. The children are being brought up in a concrete world, where the playgrounds and even the opportunities of playing, what we see when I engage with the schools, even the opportunities for the children to have a downtime, the opportunities for the children to have a playtime is, and even the recess breaks are getting shorter and shorter. So do you understand that the biggest challenge with this happens is that there are many of us who are working in this mental health space with children, and even the schooling system, we are noticing that there are developmental delays which are happening in multiple areas in the children, whether it is early childhood obesity, whether it is sedentary lifestyle which the children are preferring, whether it is, even if the child is connected through social media, even if the child is posting videos and is continuously on the reels or the shorts, the child still is not a happy child. Child still does not see to be, when the child gets up, child is not engaging with things around. In fact, many of the adolescents, the overall anxiety into the adolescents, the overall body consciousness, the overall depression, diagnosis of anxiety, and even suicidal attempts are increasing. It's being manifested differently. There are multiple studies which are showing it is manifesting differently in a girl child, it is manifesting differently in a boy child. Even aggression has been reported in the schooling system, where the children are showing they are finding it difficult to handle social conflicts in an adapted manner. And overall, within the families, also when it is getting so disenfranchised, there is a higher level of anxiety happening, and overall it is affecting the mental health of the children. So it is very important to go back to our basic question, that the system which has changed, the environment which has changed, it is just a few decades. A typical 14-year-old child or a typical 12-year-old child, just 10 or 15 years back was being raised way differently than what the child is finding himself or herself today. And nothing has changed in the DNA of the human being since then. So our needs have not changed. Our needs still stay the same. That is our physiological need. The well-being of the child still stays within the observation learning. In the real world, it is important that the child builds worldly view through interacting with the environment and not through build, being on the staple diet of pitless reels, shorts, and continuous back-to-back engagement through screens. So coming back to is that how do we go from here? Where do we go from here is by understanding the basic thing with the which stabilizes the children. The basic thing which stabilizes the children are connect within the family. In fact, when the overall anxiety within the family is increasing, it is affecting. There are a lot of cases in my professional setup which I get where even the couple relationship is facing a lot of anxiety, and breakdowns are happening, and it further has a more isolating effect on the children. So the connect within the family, connect of the parents, the couple with each other, and then the time that they give to the children in connecting with them through their different emotional upheavals, ups and downs, and the peers doesn't mean the same age group. It's okay for a mixed age group, but the peer unstructured. In fact, there have been observations where since the lockdown, there have been more focus on structured and organized activities, say a club, say a gym, or say some kind of academies, as compared to allowing the children to have unstructured, a child-driven uh, times, free time, as compared to giving that environment to the children. And that later is what the children need for their development and to develop meaningful relationships. So that's my main aim through this webinar. I want to thank you. My aim out here is not to give, again reiterating, to give an action item. My aim here is to keep asking the question. In fact, many countries are struggling with this, whether it is China, whether it is India, whether it is many other countries who are struggling to figure it out, whether the social media should be opened up to a child as young as 12, 13, 14, or should we actually have a particular age band, say 20, 21 for the children. So we do understand it's a new system that we have got into. It's a new environment that we have got into. It's important for us to understand how developmentally challenging it can be for the children. So thank you so much, um, Jessie, for giving me an opportunity to present my topic today.
Thank you, doctor. So